Hey friends, welcome back to AI for Founders. I'm Ryan Estes, and today we're flipping the mic for a special 50 episode check-in with the heart and hustle behind the show, the amazing Fernanda. That's right, no guest today, just two podcast fans reflecting on how we went from 0 to 50 episodes in 6 months. We interviewed brilliant minds from Singapore to Sao Paulo, building 22,000 plus strong in community, and launching weird little AI products along the way. We talk AI trends, startup philosophy, stoicism, thumbnails, batteries, yes, camera batteries, and what it really means to connect with people, founder to founder, human to human. This episode is fun, insightful, and full of the same curiosity and creativity that launched the whole show. Let's go. But first, some business. This episode for AI for Founders is brought to you by Kitcaster, the podcast agency that helps founders turn conversations into conversions. If you're building something amazing, you should be talking about it. Kitcaster gets you booked on podcasts that matter, podcasts your ICP is already listening to. With over 15,000 interviews under our belt and a network of 800 plus founders, we've built the momentum machine that turns your story into inbound, influence, and opportunities. You build, we book. Learn more at kitcaster.com and tell them Ryan sent you. That's Kitcaster by Moburst. Okay, everyone loves to talk about vision, the pitch, the funding round, but you know what gets zero love? The actual product build. That magical, terrifying phase where nothing works, the docs are out of date, and you've asked your dev team, how's it going, for the 47th time today on Slack. That's where Code Story comes in. It's a podcast for startup founders who know that building the thing is the thing. Hosted by Noah Labhart, Code Story goes deep with tech leaders who've been through it, shipping real products, surviving messy launches, and figuring out what actually works and when you're on the edge of chaos. If you're building now or ever plan to, you'll want these stories in your earballs. Search Code Story wherever you get your podcasts or visit codestory.co, because founders talk vision, but builders tell code stories. Tremendous. Fernanda, how are you?
Everything's great. Thank you. How about you, Ryan? Excited for the 50 episodes?
Yeah, I really am. You know, we were talking about it, and I thought it was good to do maybe just a check-in episode on the podcast. We hit 50 episodes really, really quick. I mean, we started this in what, February, I think?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. It's cool. So, and it's maybe a good opportunity just to reintroduce ourselves to the audience. You know, I'll just kind of start. You know, I'm Ryan Estes. I am a funded startup founder, an entrepreneur with exits. I am an investor, and I am a creator, and I am an enthusiast for podcasting and technology. And of course, Fernanda from the very beginning has been right in this, building the show, booking the guests, getting all the momentum going for the show. And I feel like we've done a pretty good job. I'll put it this way. We've worked with 800 different founders and booked them on 15,000 plus podcasts. And one thing I always tell everybody, because it's nerve-wracking putting yourself out there, it's nerve-wracking creating content, is that don't judge it until the 100th episode. You know, don't just go out there and do that. So I've had to, take my own medicine a little bit because, we've definitely iterated. But, we're halfway to that 100 episode mark. And so I thought it was a good time just to check in and talk about what we've done so far.
Sounds like a very good plan.
Yeah. So maybe some statistics. So it's 50, give or take. But we started originally, we were going to call the show Lift. And we talked to founders about ways that they lifted their business, they lifted, their lifestyle. But really what happened is the AI hype bubble is so vast and so big, it was really the subject we kind of kept coming back to. And so, when we talked about it, it's like, hey, let's just jump in. Let's just have these conversations about AI. And so we kind of pivoted and rebranded the show almost right from the very beginning. and started going after founders that are launching products, especially, we've talked to a bunch of people that are in like just the very beginning launch phase, the first dozen customers or so, and see where they're at, So you've been kind of on the front line of doing outreach to the different founders. How has that process gone, and what's been people's reaction?
Well, I must say, like most of them get very excited to know like their product is reaching people and like they feel very honored for us to be in touch with them and letting them know like we would like to know more about their journey and make an interview so that like we can know more about their stories. I think like excitement is the main word I would use for them once we
Yeah.
reach out. I must say as well, like it's a bit of a challenge to coordinate the time zones. That's the one thing that I think we have bumped into the most. But other than that, like everyone's thrilled to come into the show.
It's really surprising, right? How many founders are HQ'd in Europe, and are launching to American markets? I mean, I get it from their standpoint, but this is probably the biggest surge I've seen of like kind of creators outside the United States. And I wonder, I'm assuming that we're going to see a lot more of that, prior.
Yes, and
Go ahead.
you
So,
can see it like you can see it every week. Like I think in the past few weeks there were a lot of founders based in Europe, but then I don't know, maybe for the past 3 to 4 weeks it's been a lot of like Asian countries that we get to get in touch with. So times definitely get like a little bit more tricky. But yeah, I think AI is like reaching everywhere and we're like getting in touch with so much people that I don't think we would be getting in touch with otherwise. AI is like making everyone be friends with everyone.
yeah. And it's like really democratizing the tech stack because, Silicon Valley has resources to unlimited capital essentially. And so the closer you are there, and also, it also has like all of the offshoots and all the big shots from the Googles and all the FANG companies that are looking for deals. I mean, it's the optimal place to be. But now with, the cost of development for AI products coming down so fast, pardon me, it really opens up. It's going to be interesting. I mean, I'm really waiting to see like Africa come on board, because there is so much talent in Africa, Nigeria specifically, that like once they start to contribute and they start launching products and they're able to like market into the US, could be a complete game changer for the entire continent.
Definitely. I think we will be seeing that probably very soon, probably more than we expect.
I know. I know. It's so cool. I mean, especially the way that like successful AI tools are developing, because and we've talked about this a lot, but it's like there's kind of two components. One is that you just hit one button and automatically it just works, you know? And then the other, it's like very single use cases for a specific task. Now, of course, you got like the big vibe coding platforms, you got the big automation platforms, you got people that are integrating all these different things. There's those players too. But a lot of the software is like, hey, it's this little thing that solves this one little thing. All you got to do is hit the button. And I think if that really proliferates, then you're going to see like truly like, the entire world, mobilizing to create resources for everybody to enjoy. It's such a cool time.
Yeah, definitely. I think you touched like on a very important point. I think I'm amazed to see how specific apps have been getting. Like people is so creative, like they are developing so many new tools that I wouldn't even like never think of. But for very niche publics or very specific tasks, as you mentioned, and it's just amazing to see how creativity can like actually get exploded with the help of AI and just like sort of make our lives easier.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing. I mean, we started vibe coding on the podcast maybe 3 months ago. And it was like Bolt was new, Lovable was new. All these platforms are new, and we're just kind of seeing what we could do. And you get kind of sophisticated with the prompts, and like you're pulling prompts from different ways. But boy, now it's like it's moving fast. I mean, I kind of challenge myself to ship one product a week, and I've been on that pace 6, 7 weeks. So I have like all these little tools, all these little things. I'm putting them into the newsletter, like, hey, check this out, check this out, check this out. Because to that point, it's like you have one little, it's almost like novelty products. It's like pet rocks for technology is kind of what I'm really interested in right now is just like, here's a little thing. If I can brighten someone's day for 90 seconds, play with this thing, you know, and see if you have something like that pop. Because ultimately, like just some easy hit this button and something cool happens, that pops. Then you put a login on there. Then you can monetize the product. Then you have a community based around it. And then you have a brand, you know, which is, it's a
Yeah.
lofty goal more than anything else. It's just cool to like put something into the world and see what people think about it software wise, which prior to now was just extremely cost prohibitive and time prohibitive. But, now it's like you spend 10 minutes on a thing. You're like, that's pretty cool. Let's see what people think.
Yeah, absolutely right. Like we have even like created so many things during like our conversations. Like if you can multitask that, like create an app while you're talking to someone and it was just so fast. It's so interesting like to think of where it'll get us. Like it's so much fun just messing around and creating new tools to make even like your own life easier, to make tools for yourself and just like have fun with them.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting. And I'm really grateful to you, Fernanda, because we've grown so fast. I mean, right now we've got probably 22, maybe 23,000 subscribers, which is unbelievable for starting in
That's a
February.
lot.
You know,
Yeah, that's a lot.
it's wild. I'm very grateful for our listeners too, and the readers um, for the newsletter. And of course, that's at aiforfounders.co. You can go check that out. But I'm also going to go through a little bit of like kind of what we've done. I mean, we've done, let's say 50 podcast episodes plus. We've done a bunch of TikToks and stuff like that, which is fun. We built out the workshop series. We built out the newsletter. Let me go check out the website. What else do we have on here? I think that's about it. But
But I
in the
mean,
people
for
have
the
really
time being,
yeah, oh, absolutely. But people have really responded, and the appetite for this is very great. And I feel like the temperature is changing a little bit. In the beginning, I really wanted to spend a lot of time thinking about should we do this? Should we not do that? And just I think I've been overwhelmed with the enthusiasm and energy of like what people are building. There's like some kind of apocalyptic future that's always in the mist out there somewhere, and it's easy to get enraptured with that. But what you don't see is that like there's also a utopia, and there's also just the world we're going to end up in. But what you don't see is all the little steps ahead of like everything that's coming and that we're seeing right now at this accelerated pace.
right.
So that's been really, really cool. What else have we done? I wanted to mention too, there was a great podcast with Theo Vaughn and Sam Altman that came out yesterday. And I don't know if you checked out much of Theo's stuff, have you?
No, I haven't, but I'm sure gonna go and check them out.
He's a comedian and he's a total goofball and kind of thinks very childlike, and he's interviewing Sam Altman. I mean, he interviewed Trump on a podcast. It was talking about Trump's brother's cocaine addiction. I mean, he's a wild guy. But he's interviewing Sam Altman, and I could hear a lot of like um, Theo's kind of anxiety and like uncertainty and fear about this whole thing that's coming. And I really related to it, because as much enthusiasm and excitement I have, there is like the pace of this movement is like staggering, you know? I mean, the folks that we talk to all the time, when you're looking at products and you're looking at tons of products, reaching out to a bunch of different founders, what are the products that are really like interesting to you?
Oh, all of them. I mean, like something new amazes me every day. Like as I mentioned, I am surprised as how creative people is to create like so specific tools. And like every time I look at something, I think of someone. Like with every product and I go and look, I can think of someone that could use that tool. I even like text you every once in a while, like, hey, check this out. I think this could come in super helpful. And I'm like that like 90% of the time. Like with every tool I go and look, I send it over to someone because I'm sure like someone could benefit from it. And I think that's the thing that amazes me the most, like how specific and how creative people is to think of new tools.
Yeah.
Not like the creation of the tools, which is also amazing, I'm sure, but like of thinking the problem it could be solving.
Yeah, totally. It's incredible. We spoke to so many amazing people that they're using AI native tools to build AI native solutions, which is cool. We've talked to people that build platforms so other people can build on top of it. You know, we've met people that had existing businesses that are now using AI as a wrinkle and or as like a selling point, to amplify what they are already doing. It's just so fascinating. I'm enjoying it so much. It's so cool. I mean, I'm putting out like 2 or 3 episodes a week, which is a crazy clip. I don't know how long we'll keep this rhythm up, but probably forever because I mean I just love it so much. It's so cool. And I also want to give shout out to our sponsors because we're getting a lot more inbound inquiry about that. Shout out to Kitcaster, shout out to Moburst, shout out to Code Story. What's up, Noah? And we're getting more and more inquiries about sponsorship opportunities. And honestly, I think we've been very selective and will be very selective because I'm kind of protective of the audience we have. Our audience is probably 90% founders. I'd say at least half of those are funded. So it's like these are folks that don't have time for McDonald's ads or Geico ads or something like that. But really, I want to be able to find resources that can serve a founder community. I think people come to the podcast because, they're looking for tools that will help their life. And so I think there's a little responsibility with that. And I think as we kind of grow and build out more sponsorship opportunities, that's going to be considered pretty heavily. So the sponsors we have now, super happy to have that support and to be able to create content. I mean, it's great. One thing I want to do is I was just going to go through and do a little recap of some highlights, at least from me. So
Okay, go ahead.
So probably my favorite episode so far, and no disrespect to anybody else, was Nikhil from Vapi. And I'll tell you why. That dude just looked cool, man. I was like, God, I wish I had cool long hair like that, and he had a cool shirt and just like a great energy. I mean, it's been cool to get to know him and bro down a little bit. And the product that he's using, I think we've probably interviewed 2 or 3 people that have actually built tools with Vapi. I mean, he really is on the forefront of audio agents with AI. So that was a really cool perspective, and especially our conversation, because for whatever reason, I was feeling extra philosophic and like catastrophic. So I kept hitting him with all these doomsday scenarios, and he was just like laughing it off and rolling with it. It was so fun.
It sounds like.
Yeah. Another one I really liked was Mariana Padilla. She's with hackerverse.ai. And largely that was because I thought it was a cool like inverse where she creates teams like red teams that will go attack the AI to see if they can break it, and then deliver the results back to the product so that they have kind of a seal of approval, like, oh, Hackerverse couldn't get into our product. But I just love that idea because you were so accustomed to seeing like, oh, the machines are attacking the humans or something like that, the bots. But in this case, it's like revenge of the humans. The humans are attacking the bots. I love that kind of angle.
It sounds very interesting as well.
Yeah. Couple other that stood out. Aaron Painter was fantastic. Every once in a while, we'll interview people that are absolute true pros with podcasting or interviews. And his ability to speak with clarity and brevity and concisely was incredible. I think one thing that I love about podcasting is you get to become kind of a connoisseur of conversation, where you can hear people that have real virtuosity. And I truly believe that that's a capability. Like in the same way, you could be boss or like Beethoven and have virtuosity with the piano, or your Prince or your Jimi Hendrix, you got virtuosity with the guitar. I think that some people can use their conversation virtuously. And you can probably everybody can relate to this when you're having a conversation with someone like that, the back of your neck starts tingling and you're like, whoa, whatever is in your brain is vibrating through your vocal cords into the air and is like affecting me. Like I can like, I'm getting it, you know? And I'm not saying I was getting chills listening to Aaron Painter talk, speak, but
Almost sounds like.
but I was very impressed with his like poise and his ability to like deliver on an interview. It was really cool, kind of inspirational, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's something that's very hard to achieve online. Like it's way easier to like sort of have the presence when you're like face to face with someone, like in the real world, but then to have the presence online, I think it's something to be respectful for. It
Totally.
definitely is a virtue.
Yeah. A couple of other things that stood out. I just interviewed Siva. He was fantastic, great guy, but a little bit older, and I love speaking to people that are like generation above me, or a generation or two. I feel like the perspective is really, really interesting. And when he was talking about really kind of being in Silicon Valley from like the late 80s all the way till now, I mean, what he said really stuck with me because it's like, okay, you've seen the rise of personal computing, the birth of the internet, the dot-com burst, Web 2.0, cloud, and now AI. And the question was like, what's been the most exciting time like in technology with all of that advancement and all those leaps and bounds? He's like, right now. And he's like, all right,
Yeah.
cool. Another thing, I think it's been really cool that we've had so many women founders. There's always kind of a trope, and maybe it's true, but that like women are somehow overlooked in STEM, in science, technology, entrepreneurship, like all these things that somehow women aren't being represented. And I always was kind of like, man, I know so many cool women doing so many cool things in business and in STEM. And I feel like the podcast has really represented that. Like we've had so many women founders that are like dynamic and strong and smart. It's just, I wonder, and I'm not discrediting people's experience because I'm sure there are, still pigs out there that make it weird for women. But man, the creativity and entrepreneurial spirit in women is alive and well on this podcast, at least. Man, we've had some really strong ones, especially the last couple of weeks. This episode is brought to you by MoBurst, the AI-first growth engine trusted by iconic startups like Calm, Robinhood, Reddit, Uber, and Google. MoBurst is a digital full-service mobile-first marketing agency that helps companies to scale and become category leaders. Whether you're finding product market fit or ready to accelerate growth, MoBurst delivers creative, data-driven solutions that help with scale and efficiency and impact. At MoBurst, we're not just guessing what works, we're predicting it. As an AI-first agency, MoBurst uses cutting-edge tools to analyze user behavior, adapt creative in real time, and uncover hidden growth opportunities. The result, marketing that's faster, smarter, and built to convert. From early-stage startups to global brands, we've helped hundreds of companies overcome complex challenges, unlock new audiences, and optimize every metric that matters. At MoBurst, we believe that creative thinking, advanced technology, and data are the core drivers of success at scale. If you're serious about scaling your business with precision and purpose, it's time to talk to MoBurst. Visit moburst.com and let's build something category-defining together.
And I actually try and look for women when I'm looking for products, and I try like to email them first because I know it's like hard for women to like get their voice out there in every industry. So it's amazing.
Well, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that because it's important, It could become the bros club really quick. And nothing wrong with the bros club either, but it is really cool. Emma or Elle was amazing. Jenna was amazing. And that was just last week. There's so many. The Europeans, that's been really interesting. But I think more than anything, too, it's digging deeper. I think one thing about learning how to be a good interviewer, which I feel like I'm a student of, I want to be good at this, is that just a simple question of like, tell me more about that. Tell me more about that. And what happens is then you get to really the the bones, the scaffolding, or we'll say the marrow of the bone, the empty bone, what's in the middle. And so many times there's been so many stories of like, oh yeah, I grew up in the jungle. You're like, what? Oh, or oh yeah, I got some presidential award from the president of Italy. That was Al. You know, had great conversations about meditation. One, because I really like that subject matter, but people will talk about meditating. It's like, no, 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 tell me more about that, and then that becomes the whole episode because it's really interesting experiences. I mean, uh, what was his name? Steven, talked about his UFO UAP experiences, and that he may have been channeling them in his meditation. I'm like, dude, I'm open for that. But I think that's the other thing that oftentimes gets overlooked is there's like a LinkedInification of like business where you're supposed to be like some kind of, you know, robot that has pithy quotes and is like gung ho capitalism. But especially founders are creative, sensitive people and they have interesting lives and interesting backstories. And like, I think as we get into the next 50, that's going to be the challenge I put on myself is that, let's really go in and find out who these folks are as people. Like what are the inner mechanisms that make them tick? And a lot of times I think they're probably they might be a little embarrassing. They might be a little weird or whatever. But I think we all could relate to that because we got the embarrassing and weird things inside of us that, when you hear people relate to that, then it's like, wow, look at this guy, raised $88 million and has a blockbuster product, but he's got the same little weird quirks that I do. I think it's inspirational for a lot of founders and a lot of creators that, in the beginning, you got to really overcome. You got to really be brave, I think.
Absolutely. That's so true. Like every time you get like to relate to someone that you admire, it just feels so much more real. And like, yeah, you get like the sense of like you can accomplish a lot more than you could ever think, right? Like, yeah, to
Yeah.
relate to someone, I think it's very powerful. And not everyone has that ability to like get to the core of the story. And I think definitely that's something that you have you have on yourself. You ask the right questions.
Thanks, Fernanda. I got room to improve, but it's a fun process to practice, like being able to be introduced to somebody and then connect deeply by the end of a 45-minute conversation. It's magical, you know? It's
Yeah.
it's amazing. I think it like brings out like or highlights really kind of our most noble human characteristics, which is the ability to connect, you know? Especially when like you said, we're talking to people that are in London, we're talking to people that are in Singapore, we're talking to people that are in Israel, we're talking to people all over the planet. But because of this weird world we live in, you can actually make genuine connections. And I really felt like I have with a lot of these folks, you know. The other theme that keeps coming up, and I'll be interested to see if it continues, is just stoicism. And I suppose it's maybe it's no surprise, but for people that come across stoicism as like a philosophy, it's very liberating, And I think probably the people that are they're looking into the world with their eyes and with their hands and their sounds, the tendrils of like, how can I make this thing that's so hard? Being a founder is so hard. Putting yourself creatively into the world is so hard that you need fuel. And like if you find stoicism, my gosh, that's the fuel you need because it's unapologetically neutral. It's like, yes, it is hard. So what? There's always kind of this challenge. It's not trying to like solve any problems for you. Rather, it's like, yeah, problems exist. What's up now? You know? So it's really cool to see that. I would say 90% of the guests um, have talked about stoicism as being like an important thing in their life. And there was probably for a while, I was asking everybody, if you could live in any era besides this one or the future, which era would it be? And like half of the people were like Rome, ancient Rome. And then another 25% were like the 70s. I was like, wow, so many people wanted to live in the 70s.
That's interesting. And did you like understood like a pattern there? Like why did they choose those two eras?
I don't know. I mean, I think the Rome thing comes from the Stoicism thing, like they're like, oh yeah, that was, I want to be around Seneca and all the, you know, uh, Pablo Augustus and all these guys. They want to be around the Stoics. So that makes sense. Plus, there's also that meme that went around that, men think about ancient Rome like 25 times a day.
Yes.
So it could be
Yeah.
part of that too. Um,
Probably.
but a couple of things too. I want to talk about some experiments I've been doing as far as YouTube. YouTube's really hard to build an audience on. The whatever 20,000 plus subs we have. I mean, 300 of them are on YouTube, and we've had some shorts that have done really well. We've had certain episodes. The Fernanda episodes, I'm not surprised, do really, really well for us. Um, but some don't. And so it's like trying to figure out the algo of YouTube has been kind of a fun nut to try and crack, So a couple of things I've done. I did kind of a standardized classic pointing at words thing, YouTube thumbnail. I was doing kind of this cartoon motif with robots in the background, and that did pretty good. And then I changed that to like a hyper realistic image. I think there's something kind of, finger on the nose about like using all these AI generative things for the AI podcast as kind of a wink at everybody. And so I would say like, okay, where would you be? And then like the 70s. So I put them in the 70s for the thumbnail, and then of course I'm always like making, myself much more attractive in the thumbnail than I am because why not? You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
I'd put a picture in there and be like, okay, regenerate this hyper realistic, and it would give me this image back. I'm like, make him 25% more attractive. Like, what are we doing? So then it's like,
I'm there and paying more attention to those images because I don't think I have noticed like that much detail on them.
yeah. So, I'm really playing with and experimenting with the thumbnails because I know that's a big thing on YouTube, And when you go back and look, I try and thread like, okay, what are our big hits, with the subject lines. I'm doing a lot of hooks on the subject lines just to get people in the front door. Al's podcast had a bunch of spins. Um, James Flynn, he was in Ireland. He had a bunch of spins. That was really cool. Um, our podcast had a big one. I mean, shout out to Jake and Vince. We've done a couple of episodes with Jake's an old buddy of mine, but like that dude just speaks in pure poetry. He's like one of the most musical persons I know, and an experienced podcaster, and just so fun because he's got just enough of a sardonic take on everything that he is also one of the most hilarious people. So shout out to him. We got to have Jake back on. He always does well. Um, who else did we have? Oh, Omniki. He was amazing. Hikari, when he was talking about like his grandfather and stuff. Unbelievable. So cool.
So like I'm amazed at the how detailed you remember the conversations with each of your guests.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're so unique and distinct. Our number one most highest performing episode was with Ledge. And he's from what's the name of his company? I don't want to say it wrong. I'm going to find it real quick. It's Listen Network. And he does podcast advertising. So he turned on the juice for the interview, and boy did it work. I mean, it was a massive spike of listeners for that episode, which was really cool. Shout out to Ledge. I love that guy. It was it's cool. So yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a good recap of the first 50 episodes. We could call that a season. Maybe we'll call this season 2. But if we did, February, March, April, May, June, July, 6 months, 50 episodes in 6 months is pretty crazy. You know,
It is.
it's not
That's a
too
lot of recording. I have a question.
sure.
How many camera batteries do you use per day? I mean, recording 50 episodes in 6 months, that must be like a number.
I think the record is 5. I went onto the 5th battery.
That's a lot.
Crazy. Yeah. I've tried to move everything to Tuesday. So now I'm doing 4 interviews on Tuesday.
Wow.
But which, the first week I looked at the calendar, I was like, whoa, this is a lot. But I was so jazzed. It just feeds me. So that seems to be better to block one day and really bang out a bunch of episodes, as opposed to kind of putting them in between, the rest of my day. That seems to work pretty good. How about goals? What do you have for goals for the next 50 episode? What would you like to achieve?
Oh, I think getting getting in touch with more people and being able to reach bigger founders.
Yeah. Bigger.
I
How do you
mean,
mean bigger?
Bigger companies.
Yeah. It's going to be kind of hard. I mean, we've got some, it would be cool to have founders from unicorns for sure. That would be great. And I feel like we're in striking distance. Of course, I mean, if we had 0 listeners, and we certainly did, and signed a bunch of interviews, shout out to those people for believing in us right from the beginning.
Right.
But even with 0 listeners, I feel like I can put on as good a podcast as anybody. And I would love to have those conversations, because we have had, companies that have raised hundreds of millions of dollars and have billion-dollar valuations, but to really lock in on some of these major players would be really cool.
I think that would be one of my main goals for the next 50 episodes. Now I think a lot of people well, I don't think lots of people know the podcast now. So I think it will be easier to reach bigger companies.
Yeah, look at that little horse.
Yeah. She wanted to come say hi.
Totally. Yeah, that's a great goal. I would love to get the audience up to 50,000. But I'd also I'm going to put a little bit more effort into the social aspect and getting some of those clips out. That's been the hard thing to do with kind of the production that we're putting out, is getting the shorts published. So I'm going to work on that and really work on a couple of different things. What I've been doing in the last few episodes too is I'll talk to the guest before we air, and I say, hey, I want to hear your story. We're going to go into your story. But also we could do this little short on YouTube where it's give me a step-by-step instructions of something you're an expert in that can help other founders. And I did one of those. That was with James, and he 10x'd the viewership on YouTube with that, because it's I think it was 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. But then all the content you're getting isn't necessarily a podcast. Rather, it's hey, do these things like this and you can expect this outcome. Which I think, for the listener becomes just super valuable, because, because our listeners are so many founders and entrepreneurs, and they're all looking for tips and tricks. And I'm talking to people that are so successful. It's why not just add that extra little bit? And so far, everyone's been really enthusiastic about it.
Yeah, and that sounds like a very interesting, sort of clips to listen to. And sure, if you get that out of every interview, it would be a great success.
Totally. Amazing. Well, Fernanda, this has been so fun. I think we'll get to another 50 by Christmas, and then we can safely judge ourselves to see what kind of show we've created.
Let's find out.
Cool.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks, Fernanda. Hey, founders, let me ask you this. Are you building with AI or getting left behind by it? If you're serious about scaling smarter, faster, and bolder, you need to check out AIforfounders.co. It's your go-to resource for cutting through the noise and actually using AI to grow your startup. Each week, AI for Founders drops a sharp, no-fluff newsletter, dives deep with expert guests on the podcast, and hosts monthly workshops where you can get your hands dirty with the real tools and strategies. Whether you're pre-seed or Series B and beyond, launching something new, or just staying sharp, AI for Founders gives you the edge you need to win in 2025 and beyond. Hit aiforfounders.co to subscribe to the newsletter, tune into the podcast, and grab your spot in the next workshop. And it's all free. Build smarter, move faster, think bolder with AI for Founders. Now back to the show.